Hi, Math 3 students. Today we are going to work on filling in our unit circle. Now, in the upcoming days, you're going to see that there's certain patterns that will help you memorize it. I'm going to explain to you how all of this information was derived. But for right now, I'm sure you're anxious just to fill this thing in and kind of start memorizing it. And so that's what we're going to do. And then in class, we're going to go kind of in more detail and see kind of where all these numbers come from. Okay. So basically on the unit circle, you have to know the degrees for all the points, the radians for all the points, and then the actual coordinates of all the points. All right. So these guys here are equal to 30 degrees. And then these guys here are equal to 15. We're going to show where that comes into play here. All right, so we've got 30, right? And then from the 30, we have to add 15 more. We get 45. And then we have to add 15 more. We get 60. Then, of course, we add 30 more, and we get our 90 degrees. All right, so that is our first quadrant in terms of degrees. Oh, and this first guy here, 0 degrees. Now, in terms of our radians, right? So radians, keep in mind that like all the way around a circle is pi. That's very important. So halfway here is going to be pi over 2 because that's half of pi. Here is going to be pi over 4. And then if you think about it, if we were to break this down into sixths, which is what these markings are doing, we end up with 1/6 right here, which is going to be pi over 6. And then here we get 2/6, which is going to be pi over 3. All right. And radians and degrees are both 0 at that first point there. Then we can go ahead and talk about the coordinates, all right? So these coordinates just represent like x and y on a coordinate plane. And we're going to find out that they also represent the values of cosine and sine. X is associated with cosine, y is associated with sine. So if you think about this as a coordinate system, we've got this coordinate here, which is going to be 1, 0, right? Think if you're actually like plotting right here, 1, 0, right? Then the way that the rest of these work is we have, and I have a trick for you guys to memorize these. Root 3 over 2, 1 over 2, root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2, oops, 1 over 2, root 3 over 2. Now, some people memorize it by going like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's one way to think about it. What I always do is, let me see if I can turn my camera on here. All right. So the way that I always do this is I use my hand. Ooh, let's see if I can do this. All right. And I treat my x-axis as the thumb and my y-axis as the pinky. All right. And if I put down my pointer finger, all right, this represents like the 30 degree or the pi over 6. And remember, it's cosine comma sine. So my cosine is root 3 over 2. My sine is 1 over 2. Then I go to my next point here, which is my 45, or pi over 4. I get root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. Then I go to my next point, 1 over 2, root 3 over 2. I still do use this trick when I'm like trying to quickly figure out sine and cosine values. So that is one way you can memorize these as well. Now, if you were to plot a point, right, and you just go up by 1, we end up with 0, 1, all right? And then we have to start filling in the other quadrants, all right? So keep in mind, I said that these guys here are 30 degrees, right? So then we would get 120, all right? Then these guys are 15, we get 135. Next, we would get 150 degrees. All right. And then if we think about our quarters, right, we get 1/4, 2/4, and then this one's going to be 3/4 pi. So 3 pi, or 3/4 pi, 3 pi over 4. Then we can think about our sixths, right? So we had 1/6, 2/6, which is 3 pi over 3, 3/6, which is 1/2. So then we have 4 pi over 6, oops, which does simplify to 2 pi over 3. And then 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, which we cannot simplify. All right. And then our degrees, obviously this is 180. Now, the coordinates are all reflective. All right. So you just have to think about it logically about like what quadrant you're in. So like if you're plotting a point over here, right, we've got like positive, positive. Well, if we're plotting a point over here, okay, first we have to go negative, then positive. Now, these guys are associated with each other, so we would go negative 1/2 and root 3/2. And the same pattern kind of occurs between these guys here. Now, we're going to discuss that these coordinates are actually all derived from special right triangles, 30, 60, 90, and 45, 45, 90. All right, then we got this guy, which is negative root 3/2 and 1/2. All right, cool stuff. All right, and then this guy here, we would go negative 1, 0. All right, so let's go ahead. We're just going to fill in the rest. The pattern continues for all of these, really. So we've got 210. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Excuse me. It's not worth editing out. All right. So those are our degrees in the third quadrant. We get 7 pi over 6, 5 pi over 4, and 4 pi over 3. And then if we're in this quadrant, right, we would go negative, negative. So we're going to end up with all negative values, negative root 3/2, negative 1/2. Negative root 2/2, negative root 2/2. We get negative 1/2, negative root 3/2. All right, and then we've got 270 degrees, and this is going to be 3 pi over 2. And our coordinates are going to be 0, negative 1. And we'll go fill in the rest here. We get 300, 315, and 330. We get 5 pi over 3. We get 7 pi over 4. And we get 11 pi over 6. And then our coordinates, if you think about it, right, we go positive, negative. So we are going to get 1/2 and negative root 3/2. Root 2/2 and negative root 2/2. Root 3/2 and negative 1/2. And then we get to 360 or 2 pi. So this is your filled in unit circle. Again, we're going to go through kind of where all this is derived from. But for right now, you could kind of start memorizing this because you will have to have this memorized very soon.